Guys, so today we're making puff pastry, or rough puff pastry, because it's a little bit quicker. We're going to use this for cinnamon swirls. You can use it for pies, sausage rolls, whatever you want. Now, ingredients wise, it's really simple. It's flour, it's butter, it's salt, and it's some ice water, some really cold water out of the fridge. And this is block butter, and it's been in the fridge staying cold, so it's nice and firm. Really important for pastry. Okay, so first job we're going to do is we are going to sieve our flour into our bowl to make sure it's light and airy and we've got no lumps. I'm going to add a pinch of salt as well to that and sieve that in too. Then we are going to grate our butter into it. Now you can cut this into blocks and rub it in, but grating should be a quicker method. When you're grating, use the big part, not the little part, or it might go a bit sloppy. So we're going to grate it in. And hopefully, as long as it's nice and firm, we should get it into our flour. Handle the butter as least as you possibly can so it doesn't warm up too much. And the quantities for this are 125 flour and the same butter, so it's half butter. You can use any block butter, anything that's hard, so if you want to try vegan butter, you could give it a go and see what you think. Then, once we've got our butter in, we're going to use our palette knife to mix that around, so we're keeping our warm hands out of it. So palette knife in there to rub that butter around and make sure it's all coated. Then any slightly larger lumps, we can mix it all in. Then we're going to make a well in the middle. So a little well in the middle, and then we're going to get our ice water out. Now it says 50 to 75 ml of ice water, cold as you possibly can. We're going to add a little bit at a time because we don't want it to be too wet. So I'm going to put half of it in the middle. I'm going to go back to my palette knife, mix that around, and the water should make it all combine and come to a dough in the end. So a little bit at a time. Don't be tempted to throw it all in because once it gets too wet, it becomes really hard to handle. So a little bit more. And you just want it so that it's just going to come together. So I can see some dry bits at the bottom still. I'm going to turn the tap off. I can see some dry bits at the bottom still. I'm going to keep mixing it around, and I can see it's kind of coming together now. Now the test is, if we put our hand in now and grab a bit, does it stick together? It doesn't yet, still a bit dry. So let's add a little bit more water. And if you control it and do a little bit at a time, you see now it's kind of changing colour a little bit. I think that's a good sign that it's all going to stick. So let's have a go. Lovely, and see now it comes to a ball. Now we don't want that wet, we want that quite dry. So now I'm going to lightly flour, tiny bit of flour in here, just in case there's any dregs of water. I'm going to get all my dough out, empty my bowl, and then I'm going to get this into a block. And again, work as quick as you can, and we want to get it into like a brick shape, as close as we can. And you can see with that now, if we look in, we've got our little flakes of butter in there, which we're now going to fold into it. So I'm going to make it kind of a rectangular brick shape. I'm then going to flour my rolling pin so it's nice and dry, it doesn't catch any of the butter. And I'm going to roll it to a long kind of rectangle. So now we're going to roll and fold it to try and incorporate the butter and add some layers to it. If you're finding the butter, so my butter's not really cold and hard, it's sticking a little bit, so I'm going to start rolling this out. Okay, once it's sticking, I can scrape that off and dry my thing again, and I can roll it a little bit more. Now you want to try and get it as close to a rectangle as you can. If like with mine, the butter's quite soft, I'm going to try and work quickly, scraping it off the top, roll it up. Once I've rolled and folded it, I'm going to squeeze down the sides to seal it, turn it again, scrape any little bits of butter out of the way, turn it again, flour it, flour my rolling pin, keep everything nice and dry, and I'm going to roll it out again. And what I'm doing here is I'm adding layers by folding it together. And I can already see on it the butter's spreading out a little bit more. Okay, if you're finding, I can see with mine now, my butter's already getting warm, so I'm going to now fold this up once more So it's nice and neat. I'm going to seal the edges again. I'm going to turn it round, and now I'm going to put that in the fridge for 5 minutes to just cool it down. Wrap it in cling film, cool it down, and then I'm going to do that 3 more times. So overall I've got 5 roll and folds. Okay, so come back to me in a moment. Okay, so this has been in the fridge for about 5-10 minutes, just cooling down to cool that butter again so it's not so sticky. I've wrapped it in cling film, so I'm going to just unwrap it. I'm going to put it on, again, a lightly floured surface. Don't put too much flour. You can see the top bit there is where it's been folded, and I press the sides down so it's sealed like a little pocket. So again, I'm going to keep that cling film, because if it gets too wet, the butter, I'm going to put it back in the fridge for another 5 minutes. Make sure everything's nice and dry. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on top. And I'm going to roll it out again to a long rectangle as quickly as I can. And you can see now it's going quite nice and straight because we've had a couple of rolls on it. It's not sticking too much now, it's left a little bit of butter. I'm going to roll the bottom third up, the top third down. I'll use my little palette knife. It's a little bit sticky but not too bad, a little bit of flour. Then I'm going to press the sides down to seal it. Turn it again, and I'm going to try and get 5 of these in so that I'm adding enough layers so that when I bake this, whether it's a pie, my cinnamon swirl, it's going to puff out like good rough puff pastry. So nice rectangle again, bottom half up, top half down, and the more I'm working it, the butter's getting incorporated into it now, so the little lumps of butter I could see before are disappearing a little bit. Little bit of flour on, little bit of flour on the surface. And I'm going to do my 5th one now. Nice and dry. Work quickly so that butter stays cold. I'm going to do my 5th roll here. And 5 should be enough. You could do 6 if you're really desperate, but 5 should be absolutely fine. And if we look at it now, I can feel the gluten's working now. It's popping back a little bit. And if we look closely at it, all the lumps of butter seem to have been incorporated into it now. So hopefully in each layer, we've got different bits of butter. So now I roll it up again, seal the sides, brush any flour off, then straight back into my cling film, and that is going to sit in the fridge overnight until we do our cinnamon swirls or our sausage rolls or whatever you decide to make. If it's going to be more than about 2 days, put it in the freezer, but make sure it's wrapped really, really well if it goes in the freezer. And that is our really quick rough puff pastry. And in the exam, this is a high skill. Good luck.